From the court to the Twin Towers jail for a medical and psychiatric evaluation. We'll have live team coverage of all of today's events with this saga. We begin with Wendy Birch. She is at the Twin Towers jail where we have just been told by the sheriff that Hilton is in custody. Wendy.
That's right. That press conference just wrapped up with Sheriff Lee Baca, and our colleague John Gregory will have much more on that coming up in a moment. But I can give you the highlights here. The sheriff basically said the reason Paris Hilton is here at the Twin Towers facility is because this is a place where she can get the very best medical attention for her medical condition. Now, we have to be forthcoming. I sat in that hearing today. I was front and center. They spoke often of her medical condition. However, they wouldn't give any specifics to what she is truly suffering from. Nonetheless, the sheriff says this is the best place for her, and it's the place where she can receive the best sort of treatment. Now, as I mentioned, I was front and center sitting in the front row for the court proceedings that happened today. I can tell you that Paris Hilton was very shaken and shaking through most of the proceedings. She was hunched over, sort of clenching her fist for most of the time and visibly upset about what was taking place. The judge, he was agitated but calm throughout the proceedings. You could tell he was not that happy that all of this came back before him today and that he had to hear the matter. And the city attorney, well, they were determined and intent to get Paris Hilton back behind bars.
At 10:15 this morning, sheriff's deputies escorted a handcuffed Paris Hilton out of her home in the Hollywood Hills, where members of the press and the ever-present paparazzi clamored to get close enough to capture the moment. The squad cars head down La Cienega. Paris's parents weren't far behind, following in that SUV. At 10:42, they all arrive at the Metropolitan Courthouse. Paris Hilton enters underground. Her parents go in through the public entrance.
Excuse me. It's in God's hands.
As 50 reporters wait inside the courtroom to witness the proceedings, a couple hundred more jockey into position outside. At 11:05, Paris Hilton walks into the hearing, a hearing scheduled to begin at 9 a.m.
She was terrified from the moment she walked in, and so when she took the seat, it was almost like she was already, being sent back to jail. So she was very, very terrified. She was praying a lot. No makeup, no false lashes, no contacts, no.
And while Hilton wiped away tears, the assistant district attorney hammered away as to why the hotel heiress belongs behind bars. In his opinion, when the sheriff's department released her from the Linwood Correctional Facility, they were in direct violation of Judge Michael Sarr's orders back on May 4th. Those orders clearly stated that electronic monitoring was not an option. While Hilton's parents watched from the second row, the attorneys they hired for their daughter went on to argue that the sheriff's department runs the jail, and it's up to them who gets released and when. But the final say rested with the man who wears the robe. The judge handed down the verdict quickly, remanding Paris Hilton back into custody immediately. What happened next can best be described as courtroom drama.
It was incredibly dramatic, and because I love these sorts of things, it was something I enjoy. But it was pretty emotional and very gut-wrenching. And she screamed in the hall when the door slammed, and you heard a "Ma" in the back. It was terrible.
Now, I can tell you there were 8 deputies inside of that courtroom, and they immediately went to work to clear all of us out. But you could hear Paris all the way down the hallway outside of the courtroom really screaming out for her mom. I heard her say, "This isn't right." And again, her screams were echoing. Kathy, Paris's mother, collapsed in her husband's arms, crying. It was a very, very emotionally intense moment in that courtroom when that verdict was delivered. Mark, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Wendy Birch. Now, a lot of this, of course, had to do with charges of contempt of court against the sheriff's department because, of course, the judge had written specifically that she was not to be sent to home detention, and then she ended up being sent there. What happened to that? The pull and tug between the two entities.
Yeah, well, Mark, the word contempt was thrown around a great deal during this one-hour proceeding that we sat in. However, the counsel representing the sheriff's department stood up and they said very clearly to the judge, Sheriff Lee Baca will support whatever this courtroom decides. And then, of course, when Paris was in fact returned to custody, it's as if the contempt charge just sort of disappeared. The judge pretty much decided not to make a ruling of it. When he hammered down that gavel, he said very succinctly, you were remanded into custody for 45 more days. He did not go on to elaborate any other contempt charges. And court observers say it's highly unlikely that the city attorney at this point would then pursue these contempt charges anymore, because essentially they got what they want. Paris Hilton is back behind bars, and all indications are that she will be here at least throughout this weekend. No real clear word yet on whether or not she will be transported back to the Linwood facility. In those proceedings, the judge made it also very clear that he was comfortable with the fact that he felt that the medical facilities down in Linwood were sufficient to treat her, and made it also very clear and pointed out that Paris Hilton and her attorneys chose that Linwood facility. So it was her choice to be there in the beginning. Reporting live down here at the Twin Towers Jail, Wendy Burns, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Mark, back your way.
Okay, Wendy, thanks.